All right, so let's spend some time reviewing a multi-dimensional array, and then let's see about outputting parts of that multi-dimensional array to an output file. All right, so here is a review. Here is a multi-dimensional array that I've created that's holding a book, holding information about books. And so in this inside array, I'm holding a book name, a book description, and a book price. So there's 3 of those arrays inside a large array. And so as a refresher, let's just walk through this and remember how this works. So if I want to, I'm going to do a loop through in array books. And so this is giving me the ability to loop through each array that's within the big array of books. So let's loop through each book, description, and price. And as we loop, that array is going to be maintained in that single array, that nested array is going to be maintained in this variable called book. So in other words, if I wanted to print book, so in the first case, book represents this whole array, which is array books of 0. The second one is array books of 1. This third one is array books of 2. So within each array, I want to print out, let's say, just the book title. So the book title is in array element 0. So we're going to do book of 0. And so let's see if that works. So this should just be printing out the title of each of my books. So Python multi array out.py. All right, so it prints those 3 out. That looks great. So let's try to print out the price. Price is element 0, 1, 2 within each of the book elements. So if I do 2, now I should get both the book and the price. So I do. So that's a review, hopefully that's a review from multidimensional arrays. All right, so now let's take what we remember about multidimensional arrays and print out to a text file just the book name and the book price. All right, so we already know how to get at the book name and the book price. Now we just need to print it out. So let's see. In order to, let's just create a string first of all to make our lives easier. Book and price is equal to, not equal to, I'm going to do is equal to book of 0 plus, probably going to want to put a comma in between, plus book of 2. Okay, let's just see what happens when we do that. So instead of doing the print here, I guess I'll just comment that out so we don't have to see it. Some of this is just a review, so hopefully. So what do I print out? Book and price. Let's see how that works. Well, let's run it. And, oh, I got an error. Did you expect the error? The fact is that I'm trying to concatenate a string with a float. So we need to convert our float to a string in order to concatenate. So now let's see if we get that part to work. And we're good. So this is actually what I want to end up writing to my out file, my book out file. So now that we have the string written, let's write that string to our file. So remember, to write a file, first we have to get a handle on it or create what's called an object. Write file equals, let's call this out file bookout.txt. I guess I need to put that, that's wrong. Write file equals, I need to open it. And then I need to put the first argument is the name of the book and put that in parentheses and then a comma. And then the mode that I want to use that book, this is going to be write. Remember, I'm going to write to that file. Okay, so now that I've got a handle on that file, I'm going to do a write file. And let's write, sorry, this should be a period. And write that string, book and price. And let's see what happens. Okay, So I'm going to save that and run it and see if it works. Okay, well, I've got the print that I expected. Looking up here, and I did get a book out.txt, so let's click on it. And what did it do? Well, it just printed my last book. Why is that? Let's look. Okay, the reason it did that is because every time I did the loop, I opened a new file. So it just kept overwriting itself. So the first time we were in the loop, it wrote the first book into bookout.txt, wrote it, came through the loop again, reopened the file, wrote it. Remember I told you the W doesn't look to see if something was already there, and it also doesn't do any appending. So let's move this outside of the loop so we only open that file once. All right, so now that should take care of that problem. And so let's see what happens now. So now we should just be writing each of our files. Let's see what each of our lines. So it ran, we have bookout.txt, and now I have 3 books. So that's good, but I want to add that new line character so each book ends up on its own line. So we can add that to our string plus new line. Okay, now let's see what we have. Print it out, looks good here. Let's see what happens here. We have our new line. So fantastic. The last thing I might add to this particular example is, let's say that now that we're all done writing each of our books to our output file, let us write a closing statement, right? And what I'm going to write is EOF, which stands for end of file. This is a common acronym that you'll find when reading to and writing files. EOF indicates that there's nothing left in the file. The file is empty. You've gotten to the end of the file. So I'm just going to write that to my output just to make it obvious that I've ended, that I've intended to end. And if I look at my output, there is my end of file. So that looks good. The only thing left to do is remember that I told you anytime you open a file or a resource, as we're going to call it, we always should be good programmers and do good programming practice, and that is to close that file, that resource when we're done, or close the file in our case. So the output should look the same, but now we are closing or cutting that string to our file, and we've been good programmers. So now we have taken an array, a multi-dimensional array, pulled out bits and pieces of that array. In other words, this whole array represents a book with the book title, description, and price, and we've written out to a new file particular pieces of those books that we wanted to write to an output file. All right, so now in our next video, let's read in these books and continue on with this particular example.